So welcome everyone. Good evening. My name is Julie Shields-Retina, and I am the Director of College Planning, Education, and Training at MEFA. And I want to welcome you to this MEFA webinar, College Athletics in Admissions. And as we have been for the last good number of years, we're very fortunate to have with us Mike Janicki, who is school counselor at, that says
Oh, that's old,
the
yeah.
wrong school.
That's not
Mike is
right.
at Old Rochester Regional High School. We'll have to fix that.
Missed that slide. Missed
See,
that one.
that's how long you've been
That's all I
working in
would do.
this. And so he is going to be your presenter this evening, and we're gonna have a great webinar. Just a little bit about MEFA. MEFA has been around since 1982, and our mission is to help families plan, save, and pay for college. Most importantly, at this point, I'd like you to know to please use MEFA as a resource. We have some contact information that you'll see at the end of the slides, and if you have any questions as you go along in this process, please always feel free to reach out to us. And this evening, I'm sure you have some questions of your own, and I'm sure Mike's going to answer them. But if he doesn't, or if you want to make sure you have a question, you want to make sure that Mike touches upon, just use the Q&A function, and I will monitor that, and I can bring up those questions with Mike either at an appropriate time or at the end. And if you do need to leave early, just please know we will give you a link to the recording and the slides within a couple of days. And if you need closed captioning, you can also hit that CC button and you'll see the words that we're speaking across the screen. And with that, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Just to kind of introduce myself a little bit, I've been doing college admissions for about 25 years, and through interspersed in all of that, more than just being a parent of student athletes, right through college or through high school and into the college arena. Did a little bit of time working as the interim athletic academic advisor for student athletes at Providence College for a little bit. Did a little coaching at the college level for softball, coached at the high school level. My own kids, my oldest, who's since graduated college, was being recruited to the Division II level, and then ended up not being able to play due to medical reasons. He's currently involved in baseball scouting, helping high school, junior college students make it to the next level. My middle daughter's doing club sports, something we'll talk a little bit about at the Division I level. And then my youngest is also playing lacrosse, went back and forth between the team and club team. And again, we'll talk about fit and how that all works in. And then as soon as this is over, I'm actually running downstairs to go watch my nephew, who's currently playing for the University of Wisconsin. So go Badgers. He plays Division I ball, so I can talk about his experience a little bit at the kind of the big time recruiting level. So anyways, a little bit about my involvement. And tonight we're going to talk about kind of what is college athletics, the eligibility, how you become, ready and eligible to play. And then the big thing that I know a lot of people have questions is how to get seen. How does the college search play out in this environment? Okay. And if, like Julie said, if there's any questions, pop them into the Q&A section, and we'll certainly get those addressed. One thing to keep in mind throughout this whole thing, 2%, only 2% of high school athletes are offered athletic scholarships. So right off the bat, please don't think that, I have a superstar athlete, because I hear this on the sidelines all the time. We're working for a college scholarship. More likely than not, it's not going to be an athletic scholarship. 2% of athletes receive scholarships. So I don't mean to burst bubbles there, but just understand the reality of kind of what's out there. So first and foremost, we want to talk about the NCAA, what it is quickly. This is, the NCAA is, March Madness, college football. This is what everyone knows college athletics to be. 3 divisions. They're not based on school size. Division is mostly, we'll talk about what distinguishes each of them. Divisions is essentially how a school, how a college or university allocates money towards the athletic program. So you'll have schools like Bryant University, at a few thousand students, be at the Division I level, just as the University of Michigan with, 100,000 students. It's really how the university wants to allocate money and fund sports. And it's not just football and basketball. It's everything from bowling, archery, rifle, every sport you can possibly think of. So really the differences between Division I, II, and III. At the Division I level, quite honestly, it's a full-time job, and I don't mean 40 hours a week. I mean like 50, 60 hours a week sometimes. There are scholarship opportunities at the D1 level. Most scholarships outside of basketball and football are not going to be full scholarships. There'll be, some monies your way. We will talk about NIL at the point, just so I can explain what that is, the name, image, and likeness. But for the most part, most scholarships are going to be partial scholarships at the Division I level. Division II, is a little bit more emphasis placed on on the academic side of things. Not so much. Your conferences are going to be more local. I mean, you've got the Big Ten Conference, which stretches from coast to coast. That is not going to be the case at the D2 level. If you are thinking of playing at the D2 level, quite honestly, there are a lot of super competitive programs at the D2 level that are, will rival and beat some D1 programs. My son was at University of Tampa, D2 lacrosse national champions, and I would put them up against many D1 programs. Okay, there is some incredible competition at the D2 level. D3, it's a smaller emphasis. That's the majority of high school athletes are going to continue on to the D3 level. No athletic scholarships, mostly merit-based academic scholarships, if any at all. Shorter practice seasons, less emphasis on the athletics and more on the academics. Also worth mentioning, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. These are schools that are going to be about mid-sized, mostly Great Lakes region, Midwest region. The emphasis on athletics is going to be comparable to D2 type work and time commitment. But again, there's a handful, I'm blanking off the top of my head right now, schools in the area here, but mostly will be in the Great Lakes, Midwest region schools. And then your National Junior College Athletic Association, these are going to be your 2-year community college programs. And it can be a really good option if you need to raise your GPA a little bit, to become more academically competitive and available for coaches. If you need to spend a little time working on skill and strength, the junior college option can be a way to go. So we want to jump into some eligibility. Throughout this, one thing to keep in mind, 2.3 or take a knee. That's usually the best way to think about this. And that's really talking about your GPA. So through these couple slides, I really want to start the emphasis to really repeat myself that we're talking about student athletes. The student piece of this is really the most important piece, okay? You're no good to your team. You're no good to your coach if you're not making grade and ineligible, okay? You are first and foremost a student athlete. The idea here to be eligible to play at the Division 1 and 2, first, obviously, graduate high school. Complete 16 core courses. We'll talk about that on the next slide. And the 10-7 rule you may hear is that you have to complete 10 of those core courses before your seventh semester, before the start of your seventh semester. So that's the start of your senior year. At the D2 level, that 10-7 rule isn't the case. And again, it's the 2.3. 2.2 at Division 2 level, but I always say if you work for the higher GPA, 2.3, you're going to be eligible for anything else, okay? The NCAA is no longer using the SAT sliding scale, but just be aware that specific schools and specific majors might still require an SAT score, okay? So the NCAA is not using that as an eligibility requirement, but a school or a major at that school may require the SAT. Academic eligibility at a Division III school is simply admission to the college, okay? You do not need to go through the certification process similar or at the same way that a D1 or D2 school would be expecting. Just be admitted to the school, the college, and you're eligible to play. Excuse me for this cough. I'm sorry. When we talk about your GPA, this is how, and the course requirements, this is how the NCAA calculates that and what they're looking for. To make it very clear and to make it very simple, if you take English, math, science, social studies every year, which ideally would be the way to go about the college search process anyway, even outside of the student athlete realm, if you take English, math, science, and social studies all 4 years, you're going to be, one, you will be eligible and you will have exceeded what the NCAA is requiring of you. Okay. They're looking for 4 years of English, 3 years of math. But again, I always say, take the 4th year of math, take the 4th year of social studies rather than the 2 that they're looking here. Take the 4th year of science rather than this 2 years they're looking for here. And you will be more competitive than people you're applying and working against to make the team. As far as the GPA and the calculation there are no points for, a B plus or a B minus. An 87 is a B. A 92 is an A. There's no A minus. There's no B plus things there. So you would just calculate your quality points, your GPA, and that's how you would come to a 2.3, ideally. A full year class is 1, and so you would just calculate your GPA there. There's some online on the NCAA website, there's some worksheets where you can just simply plug in your grades and, whether it's a year-long class, and it'll calculate it for you. Trying to think anything else there. But again, just take 4 years of English, math, science, social studies, and you're good. Okay. And so what schools will be looking for as far as certifying that you're eligible? The NCAA has created the Eligibility Center, and this is where you will kind of simply register that you're interested in being a student athlete. If you're looking, there are 3 different levels through the Eligibility Center. One would be a profile page. This is going to be, it's a free free certification there, free registration, used by Division III coaches. What happens when you register, you will be given an NCAA ID so that if and when you meet with a coach, they will more often than not just ask you for the ID number, because they will then track and record on their end who they're meeting with, when, and just meet their NCAA recruiting obligations just for their reporting on their end. If you are looking at a Division I or II school, you will need the second version on the Eligibility Center. It's an academic and amateurism certification. There's a $100 fee to it. This is just to confirm that you are academically eligible and that you may have maintained your amateurism status. In both of these, or all 3 of these, once you register, your high school will see that. You can let your guidance counselor know, but there should be somebody at the high school who monitors the NCAA Eligibility Center. And you either, however your school has this set up, your guidance counselor, the school's registrar, somebody will upload your transcript to the Eligibility Center, and they will confirm your amateur or your academic eligibility. The last version here is really if you're international student, which I don't imagine anybody here is part of an international program. But then if you're transferring, if you're transferring as a college student, you would then go back to the Eligibility Center and register with the amateurism account. Really quickly, if you're looking at NAIA school, the requirement, when I cross that out there, no longer looking at the SAT scores. But one thing to note, GPA is a 2.0 out of a 4. And one of the unique pieces is that they need you to be in the top half, rank in the top half of your senior class. And you would just need to provide a certified, official letter stating that you are in the top half of your graduating class. Just something unique to the NAIA. Eligibility at the junior college level, similar to the D3 level, would just be that you've graduated high school and have been accepted to the junior college. That you're in, again, your amateur status. But if you meet the entrance requirements for the institution, you're eligible to play. Okay. If this is kind of getting, looking down the road a piece, but if that's something you are looking at, just to be aware of at that point, if you're interested in transferring, you go to a junior college and then you transfer, you'll need to work with at that point, your current coach, the coach you're looking at playing with. You'll work with the athletic department to get your transcript sent over, because it's easy now working with the high school to have your transcript sent, but you'll need to work with at that point, the junior college, to get everything sent over to the NCAA, and then just maintain, a rigorous course load, because again, you're coming back to the student athlete piece. You know, when you're at the junior college, when you're at whatever college you're at, maintain grades throughout the entire process. Again, coaches, you're no good to somebody if you're no good to your team if you're not academically eligible. So just maintain grades the entire way through. So I think this is what a lot of people are looking for, is the recruiting piece and you know, how to get out there, how to get seen. So I want to break this
And
down
Mike, can I just
into,
ask you one
yeah,
question that came
yeah, go
in?
ahead.
Sorry.
Yep.
The question is, are all prospective student athletes required to enroll in that eligibility center?
It's a good idea too. If all you're doing is thinking of a Division 3, if you're thinking Division 3 level, it's free. You know, you throw your name, address, and phone number in there and what high school you go to. You know, no harm, no foul. You're not losing anything by not registering, or you're not losing anything by registering. It's a good idea too, just in case, you know, you get there. We've had a number of situations where, you know, you get to college, like, you know what, I've been playing ball all my life. I'm tired. I don't want to. And then you get to college, and we've had students do this. Like, you know what? I kind of miss it. I want to get back on the field. And they call back to the high school as a freshman then, and and then, you know, then we're going through this at that point. So sometimes it's just easier to just do it now. If you are, one thing I forgot to mention, if your potential to be a Division 1 athlete, Division 2 athlete, if it is substantial, I mean, if you're really that good, and we'll talk about the reality of ability, you should register for the amateurism status, academic status, um, possibly as early as sophomore year. Um, you would know if you're that good because of the responses you're probably already getting. You know, and I've been on a lot of, we'll talk about that later on. But does that, yeah, I would
Okay,
register. I would
that's
say
great.
if there's any chance of playing, register.
Great.
Okay. Long answer to a short question. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
So the top bullets here are the student piece. Okay. And the bottom bullets here are the athletic piece. Really, the student is first. Okay. I keep saying that, and I'll always say that. You need to start early, okay? And it's about picking the right school, the right major, make sure it's the right fit. When you walk on campus, does it feel comfortable? You know, I know when we were doing this with my daughter, we were looking at some pretty hefty, you know, D1 schools. She played field hockey. Soon as we walked onto campus at American, it was kind of funny. I mean, we got out of the car, and she immediately looked around and was like, "Where's the bookstore? We're buying a sweatshirt right now." It's about fit. And if you can have that gut feeling, um, you know, that's what it's all about. Um, and again, that fit goes to the entire thing, the entire campus environment. Then once you're happy there, how does athletics fit into that campus experience? You know, fine, you're happy walking across campus, but you know, are you happy walking into the gym? What's the weight room look like? What are the responsibilities of a student athlete? Meaning, a lot of times coaches, you know, the coaches will run um, summer camps. You know, that's how they, in some cases, that's how they're making some money for the university. And do they use the team as camp counselors for, you know, running summer basketball, baseball, softball camps? What is the responsibility when you're on spring break? And think of the sport that you play. Um, if you're playing soccer, and as a fall sport, is your season going to go through Thanksgiving? If you're playing basketball, your season's going to cut through the Christmas holidays. Are you going to have games? Are you going to be able to come home? When the campus is empty for spring break and you're playing softball, or crew, you're going to be in season. So what is, the vacation, the schedule is different from the academic calendar. So these are all things to think about. Your summer responsibilities. You know how busy you are in the season, whether you're at the high school level, AAU, no matter where you're playing right now, double it, triple it is what the expectation is going to be on campus. Are you going to be able to, if you have a night class at the same time you have a game, how are you going to make up classes? How are you going to fit in lab work? If you're a nursing major, if you're an engineering major, how are you going to fit that into your practice and film studies? So I think this is probably the slide people always are wondering about. So here we go. If you want to get seen by a coach, it's going to take some legwork. Again, 2% of high school athletes will be offered any kind of scholarship. So just getting seen is, if your talent has truly risen to that level, you're going to be fine. If you're truly at that level, you're going to be fine. It doesn't help to self-promote yourself, but for the rest of us, you're going to want to be an advocate for yourself. And this is the student piece, okay? Not mom and dad, not your AAU coach. Coaches on campus want leaders on their team, and you demonstrate you are the leader by the student taking the lead here, okay? So reach out to coaches, do your Google search, hop online to the athletic page of whatever school you think you might be interested in, and, drop them a line, drop them an email, and be to the point, okay? Coaches don't have the time, especially in season. Coaches don't have the time to be reading through the fluff. Get to the point, share your name, your NCAA ID, height, weight, what, position, how do they get back in touch with you? What's your GPA? Share your GPA, okay? And we just had this case at school the other day where, the coach was honest. The coach was honest. Like, we shared the kids shared their GPA, and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to waste anybody's time. And you don't want to waste people's time, okay? Be honest. Share your coaches, your high school coach, your AAU coach, your Babe Ruth, whoever you're working with, your club coach. How can the college coach get in touch with your current coach? And then whatever link you have to a Huddle account, film that you may have, scouting reports, upcoming tournaments that you might be going to. I spent more time than I can imagine, on lacrosse sidelines, and they're crawling with coaches, but if the student hasn't told whatever university, whatever college that they're going to be there, that coach that you want to play for could be watching another field. Tell them that you're going to be at, you're going to be up at Stowe, Vermont for lacrosse tournaments. And, that's really, how you're going to get seen there. There are um, uh, scouting services that, I have seen people use. I've also seen people throw a lot of money at these where you really don't need to. I mean, if you're diligent, if you're responsible enough and you have strong enough communication skills, which I hope you do, um, you don't necessarily need that. And again, these should be student initiated contacts. When you do meet with a coach, I don't need to go bullet by bullet, but these are just some things that you really want to keep in mind. Um, what's a typical day like? In season, out of season. And the second bullet's a big one, especially for those that are looking at engineering majors or nursing majors, health studies majors, where there's going to be substantial academic demands, and, you know, do you want to sacrifice your career aspirations for, a couple years of college ball? And, two of my kids made that choice to play club sports rather than um, at the D1 or D3 level, and well, D1, 2, and 3, to play club sports because it's still competitive. You're still traveling to some extent. You're still, you still have that team, that athletic competition piece, but it's not the same. Um, it's not the same, so you can manage, you can balance, you can have that appropriate student athlete balance. Um, Meal plan options. I mean, having been a parent of a student athletes, I'm sure we all know how much they eat. What's the meal plan on campus? Sometimes it's cheaper when they go away to school. Um, what's the application? How do you go about going through that, the application piece? Um, what happens if a coach leaves? Can how much longer if you really like a coach and you want to play for them, what's their commitment to the school? And then this last bullet here, and this was something that was affecting my nephew when he was in this process, is the transfer portal. We've heard a lot about that on ESPN and the news and all that stuff, but the transfer portal is where, current D1 athletes can more easily hop from school to school. And again, if you are at that ability, if you're at that talent range, um, if you're a shooting guard and the transfer portal is opening up a number of shooting guards, are you going to go with a high school kid or are you going to go with a college junior, with 7 years of eligibility left, that kind of thing. So just something to be aware of. Next couple slides, we want to talk about, these are going to be more for the NCAA, and just the recruiting timeline. A contact is any time that a coach says more than hi, and quite honestly, that's how it's written. Anytime a coach says more than hi to you, walking down the sidelines, whatever, to your parent, if they say hi, how are you? That's a contact. And there's a contact period. So this will be different from sport to sport, and then a little bit different from D1 to D2. All of these calendars are posted on the NCAA webpage. So your contact period will be those days, weeks, months, and again, different from sport to sport, but that time frame that a coach can say more than hi to you. A dead period would be when they cannot have any contact. They can call, they can drop emails, but you cannot meet them face to face. An
Mike,
evaluation.
oh, can
Yep.
I just ask, there is a question here, and I thought maybe
Yeah.
while you're addressing this contact, because you
Yeah.
say it's different in different situations, someone did ask, is it true that you can't reach out to coaches until spring of sophomore year? Would you
No,
say?
you can reach
No,
out. Yeah, you can. I mean, I wouldn't, but I mean, you can reach out when you're in second grade. I mean, if you're a
okay.
child prodigy, um, you, the individual, can reach out to coaches anytime. Um, there's a certain, I would be careful with, you don't want to badger. Like, if at the sophomore level, if you're really that good, coaches will be coming to you. If you're really that good. If coaches aren't coming to you at that point, I want to be careful how I phrase this. I don't want to say you're not that good, but that's kind of how it plays out. I want to be careful. Like, I'm not, I'm not trying to crush somebody's dreams here. But if your talent level raises to that ability, coaches will be kind of looking at you. Um, at particularly in basketball, we're talking about the difference between playing, local AAU tournaments. Coming from Massachusetts, we're not shy about traveling to, Vermont, New York, kind of regional tournaments and showcases. I'm talking about where you reach the level where you're flying to Nashville one weekend and then flying to Houston the following weekend. That's the next level ability that I'm talking about for some of those Division One programs. And as I say that, I also want to be careful. That's also different from sport to sport. If you're running cross country, it's one thing to put up good times at Van Cortlandt Park, but then are you also being invited to Penn relays? That kind of level, indoor track. Are you going down and running at, in New York City, and then going out to Bend, or, there's a point where you reach and you kind of know where you hit that next level. And again, some of that is different from sport to sport. I don't know how many people here are involved in bowling, but the clock will speak for itself. Your score in golf will speak for itself. Some of those team sports kind of change the dynamic a little bit. Does that help?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. And we'll have more, but I try to
Yeah.
catch the questions as you're covering, so.
Okay. Okay. Evaluation is simply when a coach comes to observe. Okay. And again, there's different calendar and different dates when that coach can evaluate. But again, that evaluation may fall outside of the contact time. So they can be on the sideline watching you, but they can't talk to you. Okay. An official visit, an official visit is when the college pays for the trip to come visit. Going back to the eligibility center, you would need this, and the college would need the student athlete to have already registered for the eligibility center. And there are some different caveats between tickets and lodging and meals, particularly for basketball and football. All of that stuff will be worked out by the compliance. And all of these colleges will have a compliance officer on campus that monitors coaches' contacts and communication with potential athletes. The opposite of an official visit is the unofficial visit, where you can go to campus. To answer the question before, even as a sophomore, as a freshman, you want to go see a game on campus. You want to go visit the campus. That's on your dime. Absolutely, go ahead. There's no issue with visiting campus at all. You may or may not be able to speak with a coach. When one of my kids was thinking about playing, we met with a coach, Division III level, so it's a little bit looser communication. We visited, went to campus, watched the game. After the game, waited some time, and then walked across the field and introduced himself to the lacrosse coach. So you can have those at the Division III level. It's a little bit easier to have those communications and those conversations with coaches. Moving forward, I need to switch this slide. It's no longer called the letter of intent, but this is the athletics aid agreement. And this is really same kind of concept as the former letter of intent, but when you formally commit to playing for a school, you would sign a letter, in this case, an agreement that the updated term is agreement, that you would play for that university and no longer engage in recruitment endeavors with other schools. Basically, you're taking yourself off the list and you're committing to one particular school. It becomes a contract in essence. And, so if you want to switch that, the college would need to let you out of essentially that contract. Or you could transfer to the other school and sit a couple semesters, and not be part of the team. But, again, the compliance office on campus would be the best resource for that. Just some things, just to really final issues to consider. Grades. It's all about grades. I've said it a couple times already. If you're not making academic progress, you're going to be academically ineligible. You're no good to your teammates while you're sitting in study hall and they're on the field. And the other piece here is, desire to play. As parents, we're incredibly, it's so cool to watch our kids, succeed. But in my personal case, when I was a runner in high school. When I got to college, I was done. I still love to run. It's something that I do. It's something who I am. But I was done coming out of high school as far as competitive, running, racing. So who really wants this? If it's something that your child really wants, that's what we do. We support our kids. That's who we are. That's it. But are we pushing? So just be aware of that. And again, I've said this a couple times, the reality of ability. We as parents look at our kids through, rose-colored glasses. But it's helpful to have an outside observer give an honest opinion of ability. And that's where coaches can be really helpful. Okay. And then also I mentioned it earlier, the transfer portal. How does that affect one program to another and one year's success to another? We can look at Indiana University football. They made the college football playoffs this year. Indiana football, come on, that's not a thing. And yet there they are, because of the portal. You know, I'm not poo-pooing Indiana uh, football, but that's just not a thing. But because of the portal, they made it. And again, you know, just to kind of touch base on the student athlete piece, one, you know, I just got to keep coming back to this. You know, that top bullet there, I was working a UConn women's basketball game a number of years ago, and in the middle of, you know, signing autographs and doing a press piece after a game, I'm not going to start naming names here, but you know, the athlete was asking the traveling secretary for the team, like, what class do I have tomorrow? You know, it's the level of D1 commitment, again, regardless of the sport, whether it's basketball, football, which are the big ones, or, you know, track, the time commitment at the D1 level is substantial, regardless of its, you know, D1, 2, or 3. Schools will have an academic advisor. They'll certainly have some form of academic support to maintain that you're making progress throughout all your classes, whether that be, you know, study hall, whatever it is. I monitored study halls when I was a academic advisor at Providence, and worked with students, tutored students. That's what you got to do. And it comes down to eligibility. You know, if you're not making grades, you're not eligible. Here, I think I mentioned this already, you know, really whose desire is it to play? Just have that conversation. I think it's always helpful. One thing that's come up over the last few years is the whole concept of name, image, and likeness, the NILs. And again, this is going to be at your Division I and II predominantly. Not necessarily everybody's being paid to play. I don't think my nephew's getting anything. But one thing that started to pop up, and we were getting some notices at the school, was there are some nefarious organizations and people out there saying, you know, telling our athletes that they will get them contracts. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. So if you start being contacted by, you know, certainly read between the lines, bring any of those communications to your school, to your guidance counselor, to your coach, to your athletic department, and ask, is this legit? Anything legit as far as NIL contracts will be, they can't be connected to the school, but they'll be loosely connected to, you know, an alumni association, you know, some sort of loose affiliation with the college itself. You know, but just be careful that you're not signing anything, you're not reaching out to thinking you're about to sign a big contract. In those cases, you're probably being had. And then lastly, you know, again, I mentioned this earlier, if, you know, prep school, junior college, if you're at the point where like you're just on the cusp, you know, you need that year, that 2 years, to, you know, get a little bit bigger, get a little bit stronger, get a little bit more skilled, to get your grades up a little bit more. You know, prep school, junior community college can be that way, to make that little bit bigger splash. You know, so that's also an avenue to consider. And then connect.
So Mike, we have
Yeah.
a good number of questions sort of on
Okay.
the same topic. So we'll start there, I think,
Okay.
which is just the the contact, no contact period,
Yeah.
defining that, when the coach can reach out or not, just a number of people wanted more clarity around
Okay.
that.
So
Yeah,
for the most part, I guess the easy way to do this is if we're talking Division 3, it's really you're fine. You're fine. Coaches will reach out. It doesn't really apply at the Division 3 level. We're really talking about Division 1 and 2. Um, and those calendars can be found on if you just do a Google search, contact period, Division 1 football, it'll come up. Um, and within those dates, that's when a coach can contact you, can have that conversation with you. If it's a dead period, they can't. There's no communication. And again, for the most part, I imagine, again, I don't know who's viewing this right now. For the most part, most high school athletes are looking at Division 3 level, and that communication, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
that's
And like I
great.
said, we walked. I mean, my son and I, we just walked right across the field and talked to the coach. It wasn't like he ran hiding. It's not that concern. And at showcases, at tournaments, um, when you're sitting in a field house full of basketball courts or badminton courts or whatever, um, you're fine talking to Division 3 coaches.
That's great. And so actually, you just mentioned college showcases. Are they worth it or helpful? And what about those businesses asking for fees to get you in front of college coaches?
Okay. If you're interested in a specific school and that school is hosting a showcase, yeah. I mean, one, it's a chance for you to get on campus, see if you like it. It's considered a college visit on your end. Um, if it's a school that you're interested in, it can certainly be a valuable use of time. It can be. Sometimes, I do know of some situations where, you know, college coaches are running those clinics, those showcases as camps. And I mean, we all know how much money is made on camps by some of these coaches. Um, if you're serious about being at school there, I would take advantage of it. If you're just getting blind invitations, it and it wasn't ever on your radar. If it's just a blind invitation, think about it. Think about it. Because especially if, and I really mean, especially if you have to pay to participate. Um, if you're being invited to spend, a couple $100 to go to a showcase for a school, it could be a moneymaker there. Um, but if it's a school that you're interested in, it's been on your radar, you're kind of thinking about playing there, it could be worthwhile. And the second part there was, individuals who can kind of put you in front of coaches. Um, I, you know, I'm not always a big fan of that. I think if you treat this process um, like you would almost like a part-time job and put the time into it, um, and demonstrate your leadership by taking the initiative to do this yourself, I think that sends a stronger message than any third party could. Um, no one's going to be a bigger advocate for you than you. Um, I, you know, if I'm a college coach and having talked with college coaches and college administrators, um, athletic directors about this, in fact, just kind of getting ready for this tonight, I called a couple friends, like, hey, what kind of trends are you seeing? You know, they really want to hear from the kid themselves. Um, you know, they know that the third party is there to make a buck. Um, but when the student demonstrates that initiative, that motivation, that's a potential captain. You know, that's going to be somebody that you can look to, um, on, you know, when the clock runs down. That's somebody that you can count on as a leader in the locker room because they've demonstrated it as a high school senior.
Yeah, and so then I think you've answered this next question, but there's a little twist on it, so I'll just ask it also. If you have a coach at your high school that would be willing to call colleges
Yes.
due to your
Yeah.
performance, is that a better approach
I
or?
think that's a better approach. Yeah,
Okay. But
absolutely.
still better the student reach out too, but
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah.
even, you know, when you are reaching out, you're going to want to include your coach's contact information because
Okay.
at some point those two are going to talk. And if your college coach, if your club coach makes that connection, that can be helpful because that coach is looking at it from a very pinpointed spot. They're your coach. They see you in practice. They see you in the locker room. They see you. They'll know what your personality is. That third party doesn't necessarily. Your college coach is absolutely a viable resource, and not a viable. They are your resource.
Yeah,
That's your go-to person.
that's great. So I don't see any other questions. I'll give people another moment in case you have a last question for Mike. But this was great. Lots of good information. And now you'll get to go watch your nephew.
Right. Go on, Wisconsin. Go Badgers.
All right. Well, oh, no, let's
Oh,
see if we have one more.
one more.
Would Patriot League schools follow the Division One rules?
Yeah. Patriot League, yeah. So Patriot League's going to, oh gosh, now you're testing me. Um, Patriot League will be Division One. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank
Um,
you.
I'm trying to there, yeah. If yes, if you look at each college website's the athletic page, you know, they'll say somewhere pretty obviously someplace there, um, you know, what level they compete at. But Patriot League will be D1.
That's great. Well, Mike, cannot thank you enough. This is
Yeah,
so great, and we're getting some comments about how helpful this was. So thank
good,
all of
good.
you for your great questions, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Awesome.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Bye. And yes, I will be sending the recording. Thanks.
We good?
That was so great. All right. Well, I will
Yeah.
talk with you soon, Mike.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Where do I leave this thing now?